Welcome to Club Fitting Chronicles.
Hello, everybody. It's another episode of your favorite podcast for Club Fitting Chronicles. I'm here joined with Gene, per usual. How you doing, Gene?
I'm doing well. I need to brag a little bit. The last day before Las Colinas closed down, and you didn't make a comment, and I sent you a copy of my scorecard, I shot a 66.
You did.
I turned 67 this year. So I finally shot my age and under my age. And that was going 5 under on the last 6 holes with an eagle on 13, and then birdieing 16, 17, and 18.
That'll do it.
And had a couple birdies, a couple bogeys on the front side, but
you don't want to talk about those.
Nah. But it was fun. I didn't realize how challenging that was. I did some research online, and it was like a couple of the sites said, well, to shoot under to shoot your age when your age is in the 60s is like 0.5% of all golfers achieve that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Do you know what the lowest anyone ever shot to shoot their age was? I don't know. This is on a par 70, 71, 72.
I'll say 61.
Close. 59.
Really?
Somebody shot a 59 when they were 59.
That's incredible.
Yep. I think that was about 10 years ago or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, that was pretty cool. Getting to, shoot my age and 1 under after the last debacle when I was standing on the tee and thinking, oh my goodness, I just need a par. And I hit the stupid sprinkler head in front of to the left side of the 18th hole and kicked it into the trap.
So close. Close.
But this time I stuck at 4 feet and made birdie.
That's a good way to stick the dagger in there. I shoot my age usually around the first 4 holes or so.
I would think. Depending on, par 5s, par 4s.
I got a couple more strokes until I get to 60. So if you want to look at it in golfing terms, I'm a couple holes away from 65.
Well, you'll be getting, in a couple of years, you'll be able to start thinking about for 9 holes.
Front 9. I'm about, hopefully, well, if I shoot a 29, I'm only 8 years away.
Yeah.
You never know.
You're getting close.
Yeah, closer and closer. So, Gene, 12 things that you need to look for, or you need to ask, or things in general for club fitting.
Right. And Josh and I were talking beforehand, and I was the last 7 and probably 90% of all emails that I get revolve around, I was recently fit and I can't hit. Or I'm thinking about getting fit and what should I think about? Or I'm having trouble with this. What do you think? And so we've touched on probably on all of these at one point or another, but we're putting them together in a little package in case you are going to get fit. And these are things, again, this is my humble opinion, having done thousands of club fittings. What should be happening, questions that you should be being asked, things you should be doing, things they should be doing, to give you confidence that they know what they're doing. The most recent one, I got an email from a gentleman up in Canada, and he was, I can't hit these. And when I started quizzing him a little bit and getting some information, I was like, oh my goodness, how could they make, and this was a major company that goes and talks about how they fit people, and it was like not even close to what he needed, and the questions were never asked. So that's where this is coming from. So I'll let you let you get started, and then I'll fill in the details about what each of these are, each point.
Sure. So what is good about what you have?
Okay. Well, let's back up. Why should they, what should happen when you walk in? One of the things that you should be asking about is, what's your philosophy? How do you go about doing what you do? Is this something that you have come up with on your own? Is this something that this is the way we always do it? Why do you do what you do? For me, after 15 years of researching and talking with golfers and handing golfers clubs, I realized how important it was to find the weight of the shaft, swing weight. Obviously, length is important, but those were like the first things that I tackle. But I also want to know, do you have any medical conditions? Oh, I have arthritis. Oh, how does that, when do you play? How does that affect you? I was in Southern California. We would have, 40-degree mornings in the winter. You get somebody with arthritic fingers. Is that going to be an issue when it's 40 degrees outside and they hit a ball? If they hit a ball a little thin and it's ringing and their hands ache? Of course it is. But there's things we can do to help that. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that is an issue, if they don't ask you, you should tell them things like, I have shoulder issues. I have, even back issues. Most of those issues are caused from vibration in golf. Some of it's twisting, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is your body is the absorber of all the vibration. Well, what can you do about that? You can use shock dampening grips. You can use graphite shafts in your clubs. Both of those things tend to deaden vibration. There used to be something called Sensicore, which was placed in metal shafts. You can still do that. You have to you can still find the ways of doing that online, but you can even do it yourself. There are things you can do to help deaden vibration of steel if steel is something that you need to have. But that medical condition and what is their philosophy, and then they should probably ask, why are you here? What is it you want to change? So that was the first question. So assuming, Josh, your question was, what's good about what you have? Mm-hmm. You should be asked that question. You should be asked, what do you like? What is working? Because me as a club fitter, if you tell me, like Josh, first time we played, one of the first things you told me was, I love my 4-iron. Well, that makes no sense for most people. Most people aren't going to say, my 4-iron is my favorite iron. But as soon as you told me that, I know, okay, there's something unique about that 4-iron. And knowing what kinds of, shafts and stuff you had, I knew, okay, that's the lightest shaft, but you probably have the most head feel. Mm-hmm. And, okay, head feel's important to you. When we went and did moment of inertia weighting many, 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 many issues ago, podcasts ago, we didn't start with light.
No,
because I knew how important that was based on that one statement you made.
Right, and ever since then, it's still been the same.
Yep. So, telling a club fitter what clubs in my bag I like, that if he's a good club fitter, she's a good club fitter, that's telling them a lot of information about what we need to be thinking about. You tell me my favorite club is my driver, and I notice that it is short and it's got super lightweight. What I'm going to do as a club fitter, yeah, you didn't come in to get that club change, but I'm still measuring it because I want to know what about that club could be the issue, the thing that makes it a favorite. So then the next question obviously would be,
what are you hoping to change?
Exactly. And again, you might not be wanting to change everything. You might only be wanting, it might be, my mid and low irons. I'm going to get rid of any long irons. But that question should be asked. And then the follow-up question is, why, what are you guarding against with these clubs that you want to change?
Yeah, like I fought a duck hook with my 6-iron forever.
Right.
That was my miss, was a snap hook.
And then with your other clubs, generally speaking, it was a high right.
Right, and block fade.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, to me, that was an indicator. You don't feel the head because of the fact that there is not a whole lot of weight there. And, as good of a golfer as I knew you were hidden in that body, the lower the club number, the less often you would hit an impressive shot. there's a much better chance of you hitting a really great 5-iron than there was of you hitting a really great pitching wedge.
Yeah.
And, again, I'm thinking through, okay, the pitching wedge had a heavier shaft, less head feel, more total weight feel, but less head feel. That wasn't a good thing for you. So, asking those questions, what are you guarding against? Because most of the time, I was lucky. I'm out on the golf course with you. I'm watching those things.
Right.
But somebody going into a shop, somebody, again,
They don't know
3
your
or
game.
4 times.
They don't know you.
3 or 4 times a day, somebody would come in to get fit, and Monday through Saturday, and I maybe have never met you before. Maybe I've met you once on the golf course because your friend was playing and I happened to have fit them and they introduced us, but I still haven't played with you. I don't know what your game is. So I need to ask those questions as a club fitter. What is the issues? Because sometimes the clubs just shout it out. This is obviously going to be an issue for this person. So that's the first 2.
Right. And then measurements taking of the club you're wanting to change. What's that all about?
Yeah. So if you came and said, I want to change my irons, I'm going to definitely, if I'm testing with 6 irons, I'm definitely measuring your 6 iron. I want to know what kind of loft you have. I want to know what the swing weight is. I want to know what kind of flex is in the shaft. I want to know the grip size. I'm looking at all of the grips to see, was this one a new grip? I'm asking that question maybe. How long has this grip been on? I'm trying to figure out, it's like being a detective. I'm walking on, here's the crime scene. It's in your bag. And I need to figure out what information does your club have that will help me. You come in and you say, I want to hit the ball further. And I might ask the question, how high do you hit the ball? Well, I'm kind of low. Okay. And I measure your 6 iron and I find out your 6 iron is 26 degrees. Well, the first thing I'm thinking of is, how much club head speed does this person have? Because 26 degrees is not going to launch the ball very high if you have very low club head speed. And maybe the way they're going to get more distance is going to be more loft. Get the ball up in the air a little bit better so that the ball can fly a little bit further. So, based on the responses, I'm starting to do my detective work. What could I find in those clubs that may be the culprit? Oh, you have dynamic gold S300s and you're 59 years old and you tell me you hit your 6 iron about 130 yards. Well, maybe the shaft is helping to depress that a little bit, and the weight of the shaft is helping to depress that a little bit. And when the shaft gets really super heavy, a lot of times people end up getting their hands way out in front, which also delofts the club. So I'm going to be looking for things like that. So, taking the measurements, that's kind of like the detective work. It's starting, I've arrived on the scene and I'm starting to look what's going on. What could be possibly the reason? So
going
thoughts
into the
about
next,
that. Does that make sense?
I was going to say yes, because going into the fitting, for me at least, the biggest indicator for you with my 6 iron, you automatically knew that it was much shorter. This is the club that I had trouble with, and you automatically knew just by looking at it, the way I was gripping it.
It was short and it was light.
Yeah, very. So that, length in itself for every club should not be anything for someone to just sniff about. It's a big deal. So Gene, for our viewers, there was not a pause at all. This is continuous.
But for
we
us,
actually had some technical difficulties.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I guess I was being Mr. Robotic.
You were Optimus Prime for probably 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
But I tried to go through it, and then you knocked over the mic, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe he unplugged it, but in reality, it's just the internet. Maybe we're getting hacked.
Maybe. It could be the Russians.
That could be. Maybe they found your AOL account, and they're trying to get you.
Exactly.
So we were talking about trackman and ball striking and all that great stuff, but I'd like to get into the topic The next point of discussion is the length of the shaft or starting point, determining the length of the shaft. What's the importance of that?
So obviously we need to know how long the club needs to be. But a lot of times it depends on what you're fitting to how much you're going to focus. For instance, when we've worked with your irons, did I worry about how long they needed to be? No, because there's nothing, you're 6 foot, maybe 6'1", somewhere in between there. You're not Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, like your short sleeve shirt covers your elbows, and down to your forearms. There's nothing unusual about you, nothing screaming that says, wow, we need to make sure that these are the right length. On the other hand, if we're doing a driver, we're doing a 3-wood, something like that, and we're going to spend some time with figuring out how much length do we need. And I'm going to be showing you how, as you swing, maybe with a 44-inch driver versus your 45 3/4-inch driver that you walked in the door with, how your club head speed has increased, how your ball speed has increased because you're hitting it more on center, and so thus the ball is going further. But at some point, we need to start talking or looking at that if it's part of what we need to do. You're 6'9". Yes, we need to worry about length.
Yeah.
You're 5'5", 5'7". Yes, we need to be concerned a little bit about length.
Yeah.
But if you're between 5'9" and 6'2" or so, which is pretty much 80% of the golfing world, probably not overly concerned. At least at the, as we start, when we get into it a little bit more, if you're an older person, like more than 21, and you're worrying, your back is a little bit tight a lot of the time. Okay, when we get to the wedges, we're going to talk about length.
Yeah.
Do we keep wedges all the same length? Do we, go 1/4-inch steps? What do we need to do to accommodate physically what you're dealing with? But from an overall standpoint, the length or the starting point of the club, is pretty much dictated by your physical ability, your physical presence. There's no reason to give you a longer iron because they're never going to be easier to hit.
Right.
Unless you physically need it because you are tall and your arms are not even able to reach, where the club is sitting when I give you a standard 6 iron. Okay. I had a guy from Los Angeles Lakers. He was the power forward, he was 6'11". Yeah, we needed to talk length. My friend that I fit last year who's 6'9". Yeah, we needed to talk length.
Right.
But most people, there's got to be a compelling reason to make them longer. And it's the same compelling reason to make them shorter.
Right.
So,
but with length changes also come differences in weight. So
yes.
that leads us into trying different weights, checking ball striking, and asking for feedback.
Yep. So the next thing I'm going to do, we're going to start playing around with the different weight of shaft, and we're learning. Okay, I've already kind of learned from your clubs what you have. Let's say you had a set of name brand clubs. You have KBS Tour shafts in them. They weigh 120 grams. The swing weight is D2, and you're having all kinds of issues, and it looks like you don't feel the head. Well, the first thing I'm thinking about is trying to go a little bit lighter and giving you a little bit higher swing weight. Now, I don't want to make the clubs heavy. I want to make the clubs so you can feel the head, taking away a little weight out of the shaft. It helps you to feel more of the head. So I'm going to start playing around with that. I'm going to start going in 10-gram increments. I'm not worrying about how does the shaft feel yet. I'm worried more about what does the weight need to be. Okay. And I'm only going to give you 2-3 swings because, again, I'm saving swings and I'm looking at ball striking. And if you say after one swing, like you did when we were fitting, nope, there's no reason to take a second one. The first one is dead nuts on center. I am very interested because I am most interested with what happens immediately. What's the first thing that occurs when you swing that club? If you haven't hit a ball on center all day and all of a sudden I give you something and you hit it dead nuts on center, we might be on to something here. Now we're going to hit a second ball. And again, it's not like you hit it, I'm going to throw a ball down right away. No, I'm going to talk to you about it. What did you notice different about that? Because again, I'm not trying to build a driving range club. We're trying to build a golf club. And so we want to make sure that we are not getting into a rhythm. I'm going to tell, if you came to the shop, I had so many dumb stories that I would tell golfers, and it was simply to kill time, just to try to keep things, keep their brain engaged. It wasn't like I'm not going to sit there singing the Jeopardy song.
Right.
But we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to ask you some questions. I might ask you something about how many kids do you have? Whatever seems appropriate. But I'm trying to make this more like golf, less like driving range.
Right.
But we're going to, and once we nail that weight, now we're going to start talking about characteristics that need to be in the shaft. Do you like to feel a piece of rebar? Do you like to feel that it's like bending a half a foot back and then bending on the way through, and it feels like the club is like a pretzel? Whatever your feel. And a lot of golfers, to be honest, they don't know. So we start trying. Sometimes the weight of the shaft dictates, it's like you don't find very many high launching heavy shafts. Because you know what? There are very few golfers who need a heavy shaft that needs something that launches the ball or is going to have a very soft tip. It's not a normal combination. Just like on the other end, if you need something really light and you need it in a L flex, they usually don't make many of those tip stiff.
Right.
It just, sometimes you're limited by, the golfer's weight needs. How many options are there? But you can always find, I could always find at least a couple of different options of, how much can you feel the tip? Does this R feel better than that R? Like in your shaft, the butt end was a little softer, the butt end's a little stiffer. Which do you like better? Generally speaking, most people tend to like the softer butt unless they really come unglued at the ball. Then they don't like the softer butt because now it feels like it's moving. So kind of linking all that together, but you're always looking at ball striking, and you're going to start playing with swing weight. Once we've nailed that shaft down, we're going to start putting some lead tape on the back of the club. Can we find the weight, the swing weight? We found the weight of the shaft. We know the length of the shaft, but those three things kind of all happen at the same time. And to start off with, you start off with the club the way it is. You add a little swing weight. And what was the question I would ask? Is this getting heavy? And we're looking at ball striking. I'm not taking your word for it. We're looking at ball striking. Oh, okay. That one was, last couple were, with the original weight, you were just a hair to the right, just a hair to the left to center. First ball with a little more weight, you're on center. Second ball that you hit, it hits the same spot. That seems to be better. I don't say, okay, we're done. What about if we had a little bit more weight? Because eventually, what will you tell me? No, I don't like that. And then we back it off, and then we start testing again at the point, where you told me it was too heavy. Now I take that away. Let's go back to where you said it was good. Let's look again. Is it still good?
Right.
And it's always checking. It's always checking. It's not assuming. The reason I use masking tape is I've probably now put 10 pieces of masking tape on the face of the club, and I'm looking at it and I'm saving those and I'm making notes like we did with yours. With this one, this is what we were doing. This one, and sometimes the golfer was go, I'm not sure if I like, can we try that shaft again with the swing weight? Sure, we can do that. But then we could compare what happened the first time, what happens now. But again, it's only a couple of swings. I don't want you trying to get used to it. Because again, we're not at the driving range. We're playing on the golf course. Unless your buddy is really nice, they don't say, "Well, go ahead and hit like 3 mulligans on this shot," for the shot. And I know in college golf they do that a lot, though. You know,
They do, yeah.
you have a little token in your pocket, and you know, I have 12 of these,
Especially
so
in
I
my
get to.
school. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. We take mulligans all the time.
Yep.
Yep.
So
So with that, styles of the club are huge. Styles of
okay.
the club head.
Yep.
I know there's a lot of people nowadays, just the new era of golf, a lot of it is just cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people love the what they call is the swag, or they're dripping out their bags and making them look the coolest that they can. But is there a reason for that? Is it because it
Yep.
looks cool, or they actually like the way it looks at a dress?
Right. And
Or
that's the big
both.
thing. Yeah. The number one thing is I have to look down at it and say, that's a golf club. You know, I think I told the story in episode number 1. I made there was a set of irons that came out in the early mid 90s, and they looked like, you know, it was somebody's geometry project. There were all these weird angles. Those of you old enough to remember what Zevo originally is, some of their clubs looked like, similar nature, different angles, had a top line that was probably about that wide on a 5-iron, and it got wider as you got to the lower numbers. And I would look at that 5-iron, and every time before I hit it, I would step on the head, holding the shaft off to the side, step on the head and say shovel, stick it behind the ball, and then hit the most incredible 5-irons I would ever hit. But there was no way I'm going to build myself a set of irons where I have to step on the club before I can hit it and say shovel so that I can hit the shot. Because the one time I didn't say shovel, I stood there over the ball for about 30 seconds saying, you haven't said shovel yet. If you don't say shovel and you mishit this, you're going to be really upset. I am not going to say shovel. I am just going to hit this. No, you're not. You got to say shovel, because you're going to be thinking about that the whole time until you hit. And my friend's looking at me. Has he lost his mind? And I finally pulled the club in, stepped on it, said shovel, and hit it like 2 feet from the hole from 185 yards out, and made the birdie, and threw it in the trunk and never touched it again.
That's hilarious.
Because I just couldn't look at it. You know, there are some clubs, you know, the number one thing I try to explain to golfers is even the touring pros are looking for the most forgiveness they can look at. Yes, blades are beautiful. If you want, and the average golfer will shoot in the mid 90s to low hundreds with those, because there is no forgiveness, and when you mishit it, it will cost you big time. I love the look of a blade when I'm holding it in my hand, but put it on the ground, I know this is hard to hit. I'm not interested in seeing how hard I can make this game. You know, it's already hard enough. You know, if I wanted to make it harder, I would tell Bill, throw things at me in the middle of my swing. I'll see if I can bat them away as I'm swinging. You know, no, you don't need to make the game harder, but you do need to be able to look at the club. The other thing you have to be aware of is what's the loft of that set of irons based on your club head speed. Is that loft going to work for you? Another thing you're going to have to consider, depending on the where you're getting these clubs, the width of the sole. Are you a digger? If you're a digger, you're going to be looking for a little wider sole for a little bit of protection. Or if you live where the ground is always soft. If you live where the ground is always hard, like out here, you're not probably looking for a sole that's this wide.
Yeah.
So you need to take that into consideration. You know, when you're picking out the head, it's not just, I like the way this looks. There might be things that are wrong about it for you. So you have to like what it, you know, when golfers would come to me, you know, I would say, okay, these heads are heads I think would, you know, all these heads will fulfill your needs. What about that one? No, that won't, no, it's not going to be a fun club for you. You know, there is no reason to put that in your bag, because it's not, you know. Now, if they absolutely said, I have to have it, okay, customer's always right, except for in this case. They'll be wrong, but I would tell them, you know, I'm letting you know right now, I don't have a lot of confidence that this will make a good set of irons for you. It's up to you to, if you, that's what you'd like. I will be happy to make them, and I'll make them the best I can, and I will make all the specs we need. But I don't think these are going to be happy. They're not going to be a lot of smiling faces at the end of rounds, unless it's from your friends and you're giving them money.
Right.
The other thing that they need to know is, like when we figured out the swing weight, this was the thing that, the last few emails I got. They said there was no talk about the swing weight, and they had been fit with standard grips, but they needed a heavy midsize. Well, they just threw the midsize on. The swing weight dropped 4 points, and they couldn't hit them. Well, swing weight, my question to the guy who's fitting me is going to be, how are you going to get that swing weight for me? Some clubs, there's ways that if it's a major company, they have ways of manipulating the weight of the head, if the club fitter is smart enough to be able to tell them what they need. Worst case scenario, lead tape.
Right.
That will impress the heck out of Cole and other people. And lead tape is a perfect option. It's usually not the option most people will want with a brand new set of clubs, but I'll be honest, most of the major manufacturers, that's probably going to be the only way it's going to happen, because there's already a plus or minus factor in the clubs, and it always seemed like I got the heads that were the minuses when I needed the heads to be the pluses, because they're not, we weren't a big enough account that they're going to hand pick them for me. They're just going to send me a set of clubs and I would take them apart. But if I was doing some Wishans or something like that, I knew what I could achieve. And I'll be able to do this all internally. Or, if we were MOIing a club, the back of your pitching wedge, there might be a piece of lead tape because we're trying to get it to D6, and with a 80-gram shaft, and D6 with an 80-gram shaft is really challenging to get that much weight into the head. So the head style and how am I going to get to that weight, that's an important thing.
What about grip and the size of the grip? You mentioned something about the mid-size, and you touched a little base on that, but let's just talk grips in general, because there's a lot of people that have their own preferences in their head on what I like the feel of these grips, but they never really talk about size. They just talk about the feel.
Yep.
So I just kind of think size is undermined in the game of golf for golfers nowadays, because it really is an important factor, especially.
It's critical.
It is. It is.
A lot of times what your choice is standard, mid-size, jumbo. Well, if you need a 950 grip, that means you take a 600 core grip on a 600 core shaft, you put 5 wraps of tape on it and then grip tape, and that's 1 wrap of tape smaller than a mid-size. Does that 1 wrap matter? Yes, it does. And so the question is how are they going to, achieve what grip size I need, not what grip size you want to make them. There are different things. There are little hands that you can put your hand up against, and you can measure, okay, how far is it from the fold of my wrist to the tip of my finger, and then how long is my longest finger, and that gives me an indicator. I'm going to be measuring your grip to see what size is it and how much wear and tear is evident in your grip, because that tells me how much your hands are moving. If their hands are moving a lot, obviously that makes it challenging. I'm going to look at how do you hold the club. Is it in the palm or is it in the fingers? If you're going to put it in your palm, the grip is going to need to be bigger. I'm looking at your ring finger on your left hand if you're a right-handed golfer. And I'm looking at how much are you digging into your palm, or how much space is there between your ring finger and your palm. And at ADS, we had a multitude of grips, all the same grip, but different sizes, and I put them in your hand, and I'm going to look at it. I'm looking at the top hand, I'm looking at the bottom hand. Do we need to add an extra wrap of tape to the bottom hand because you're digging in, with your right hand into your palm? We don't want digging, because digging usually causes blisters, and digging usually causes me to then try to do something different with my hand, maybe grip it a little differently. I'm not there to change your grip, but I'm there to make sure the grip matches what you do. And so material-wise, it's what kind of feel do I like? Do I like rough? Do I like smooth? Do I like the cord on the of the top, and I like a little bit firmer on the. I like cord all the way through. There isn't a better grip than another grip. The only thing that you do need to keep in mind, you have something like an arthritis. Wind grips tend to be better simply because they are there's a underlisting, so you have a little bit of shock dampening there. A lot of times a little bit bigger grip for somebody with arthritis. My dad had rheumatoid arthritis, and I would take a jumbo grip and I would add, this was way before the grips that Bryson uses. I would take a jumbo grip and I would add like an extra 4 or 5 wraps of tape on the bottom and build that grip up for him so that he could put his hands on, because he couldn't squeeze his hands shut, but he could get them, kind of in this position. Let's see how like that. So he could do that. So I had to figure out how big to make that, so that he would only do chipping and putting later in life because it just hurt too bad with his wrists. But it's finding from the golfer what do they need. And again, a standard grip is a 900. That's the size that it's called. You can have a 910, a 920, 930, 940, 950, 960 is a midsize, 970, 980, 990, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. Now we're up to a jumbo. And then the thing is each company, like a Win midsize is a different size than a Lampkin midsize. Of course, that would make sense, because why would you ever want to have similar sizes for the same name? So you have to keep that in mind. What size is the shaft? Like if you were using back in the day the Aldo NV, okay, the green shaft that Josh has.
Yeah.
That butt end is a 940. Okay. So, I'm sorry, 640. So that means if I stick a regular grip on and put 2 pieces of tape, it's now a midsize. Well, somebody wanted me to put a midsize on that. Now it's not a midsize anymore. It's much bigger than a midsize. So it's knowing those things about the shafts, the diameters of the shafts, and the core sizes of the grips to make sure that I can get to that size. But they shouldn't just say standard.
Mid-size,
you want one,
jumbo.
Mid-size, jumbo. 1 wrap of tape. No, they should be fitting you for the grip. There should be some kind of measurements being taken, and you should get to hold that size. Somebody should be looking at your hands. What's going on with that at that size? Does it appear that that fits your hand? Again, we talked about it the time when we had the Bryson clip. So many people would get so frustrated with me because I would ask them about grip size, and they just regular. What is regular? That's a meaningless term. That's like telling me I need an R-flex shaft. Which R-flex are you referring to? You didn't come to me so that you could yell at me because I didn't guess right. You came to me because I'm going to do what is right and do the best I can. And that's what a club fitter should be about. Again, what I have found over time, some of the best club fitters are the guys that are doing it in the garage.
Yeah.
They might not have a gazillion options for you, but at least to talk with them and find out what do they know and how are they going to do this. Because those people are doing it because they love it. You've been at my garage and you've seen the tools that I have. I spent $1,000 after I retired on tools. Why? Because I knew I was going to end up wanting to at least mess with my own clubs. I got the boy my wife works with. I'm lengthening his clubs. Tomorrow he's going to help me. My grandson grew another foot, so now he has 3 feet. So now I have to His clubs, we got to put an adult head on there because now he's getting to be stronger, and the junior club heads are just too light for him. So I knew I was going to need to do that because I care too much about it. It just, a lot of times Bill and I will be out golfing. I'll say, Bill, should I say anything? And you're going to say something. You might, yeah. Don't do it yet. Okay. Because it drives me nuts. Golf is already hard enough.
Right.
You don't need to make it harder based on the fitter. So with that, we only have another week and a half of overseed season.
The worst season in Arizona.
Yep. And then we get the higher price season.
Another worst season of Arizona.
Yep. And then we get the multiple players from multiple states coming out who haven't swung a golf club in multiple years and all that fun stuff, which is fine. Unless they book it, like Bill and I were playing, what day was it? It was back in early October before they closed down the course. And it was like these four people, if you would have measured the distance that they were apart from one another on any particular hole, generally it was over 70 yards, and that was from left to right. There were rarely cart trails going down the fairway. They were going across the fairway.
I know what you're talking about.
And we were out there the day before, or 2 days before, we had played in 2 hours and 25 minutes. And that day we played in 4 hours watching these people. I kept thinking, well, if we had the Goodyear blimp, we could look down at them. And maybe it's like a marching band and they're forming something and we just can't see it from our vantage point.
That's hilarious.
It just gets painful at this time of the year. People go, oh, don't you like the cooler weather? No. Give me 110. It keeps people off the golf course.
That's right. 100%. You could just fly by with no distractions.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Gene, I think a lot was discussed today as far as the important factors that go into club fitting, what people should pay attention to and look for, not only in themselves, but also what their club fitter is doing for them. And that's something that's overlooked greatly amongst the golfer community. When they're getting fitted, they don't really think about the fitter or question the fitter. Which is to be expected. They think that they should know everything about themselves already before they go and see the club fitter, which is okay because you know yourself better than someone else would. But always make sure that you're asking the right questions and you're making sure that the club fitter is asking these questions.
Yep. And if you need a list of these questions, if you can't get them off of listening to the podcast, send me an email and I'll send you the list. But again, my heart goes out to all those people that just spent $2,000 and can't hit them. That's
right.
And especially when I'm only 3,000 miles away and I can see the problem. They didn't bother to check the swing weight after they put that jumbo grip on there. I wonder if that affected anything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Yep. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Once again, if you have any questions, send us an email. Don't hesitate to ask Gene because he knows what he's talking about, and he'll respond to you probably quicker than I would respond to him.
Yeah, he doesn't respond very quickly. I usually have to send him an email. Break. Yeah, I have to send him a text message telling him to check his email. So I'll give my best to Sammy and Emma. Love you guys. I'll see you in the morning because I always see them in the morning because I have to walk them to school.
That's great. Well, thank you once again, Gene. We'll see you in the next episode.
All right. God bless.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to email us. In order for us to continue equipping you with great knowledge and content, consider blessing our show financially by checking out the links in the description below. See you next time on Club Fitting Chronicles.